In this module, we're going to take a look at the Avid Effects workspace and go over a few kinds of effects one could be expected to do in the beginning editing class. And then we'll take a look at the Avid Title tool as well. So we've seen there's several workspaces. Our normal workspace is the Edit workspace, where we take clips, put them in the timeline. Then we went through color to adjust the clips as needed. Then we had the audio to adjust the audio. And now doing effects, we go to the effect workspace. And effects are selected from this pile here and picked from one of these categories and then dragged onto a clip in the timeline. 99% of the time, effects are applied to clips already in the timeline. Another useful effect in Avid is to apply a blur, to blur the picture slightly. Maybe you want to make it a background, maybe you want to do it as an effect to something else, a part of your story, or maybe you have to blur out a part of the picture. Now, the blur effect in Avid actually was made for that. Avid, when it was first invented, a lot of it was used for news organizations, documentary work, and so very often they had to blur the face of someone or blur some item. So it operates from that viewpoint, but we can use it to blur the entire picture as well. So let's use the clip of one of our old friends here. And let's say we need to blur out the SNAR logo for some reason. It's no longer called SNAR, or there's some legal situation. So we need to blur out that. So we're going to go from the Edit workspace to the Effect workspace. Once we do that, you can see that the composer changes a little bit. This opens up so that we can modify our effects here. Once we select one, you'll see this changes a little bit. Now, in this workspace, you'll see this magnifying glass plus and minus. This is not to change the size of the image, but it's to change the size of the viewing screen, basically so we can look on the outside of the screen. So if I click this, it moves back a little bit. Now, why do that? Well, if we have things moving in, say a text, and we'll do that later, moving in, that way we can see where it's sitting out here. So again, by doing this, you're not changing the size. With that, you'd use the resize tool or some other effect. This, you were just doing it so we can see a better view of the entire frame. And here you could say we're looking at it in a 75% view. It's just our workspace window. Okay, so I recommend doing that before you add just about any effect. Over here, the first column, and this will be filters here. You notice you have different choices. Usually it's in filters, and you'll want to pick the proper group. And under image, most of the things you'll do in a beginning state will be under blend or image. I'll tell you that right now. So you don't have to be clicking through every one. Just kind of, it's not in one, probably be in the other. So we're going to select image, and there's blur effect. So I grab it, I drag it, I drop it down on my clip. Nothing happens. Okay, well actually what happens is you'll see this window now has parameters, and yet there are no handles on it. That's because the blur effect has to be delineated. You have to delineate an area that you want to put the blur on. So if we wanted to do the entire picture, I would grab this rectangle tool. You see how the cursor changes. I would draw a rectangle over the entire image, which now you can see why I wanted to reduce it. And there we go. There we go. The blur effect, and now all of a sudden the handles come here, and this is clicked on fixed aspect, so that as I modify it, I can increase or decrease it, and you'll see it's broken up into horizontal and vertical. If I get rid of the fixed aspect, then I can kind of blur it kind of schmeary. This is a vertical kind of schmear, and this would be a horizontal kind of schmear. So maybe that's something you'd want to do. But for now, we're going to keep it fixed aspect, and so I can blur the whole thing. Okay? So that's the simple way to do it. And once you're done, you get out, you're blurred, you're done. Here is the icon it places on there. But I'll show you how to blur only a section of the screen as well. That kind of, problem, like I said, the logo has to be blurred. So making sure that the square is highlighted, if I click off it, I don't see anything. Where'd it go? Notice the handles also went away. So I'd have to click it again. There it is. They come back. Because you can have different sections blurred. You can make smaller ones. You could only have a portion of it blurred. For some reason, we only want this part of the picture blurred. And I want to do a different blur there, okay? But let's do that. I'll hit the delete key on the keyboard. That's gone. So let's say we want to blur out the logo. So I'm going to grab this oval tool instead of the rectangle tool, and I'm going to drag it out and bring it up a little bit. I could stretch it out maybe a little more, and if I click off of that, you'll see it's kind of hard edge, so I'm going to click on it again, and there's this thing called feathering so that I can make it a little bit softer. Again, it's this horizontal, vertical, fixed aspect, the thing they like doing. I find it annoying, but whatever. I'm going to just feather it out a little bit. Okay, so you kind of see it, kind of don't. And now if I go back to the edit mode, let me see what we have there. I'm going to play it. And thank God we can't hear her. And there you go. So that's not bad. That's pretty good. But let's say they have more legal issues and we can't show her face. She's gone into the witness protection program. Okay, back to the effect mode. Back to blur. And we already have blur there, but now we can draw a different area. So again, I am going to take the oval tool, kind of bring this over, shape it a little bit better. Shape it out. Let me see that. I'm going to try to fix the feathering on that a little bit, make it a little bit softer. Don't want to make it too soft. I'll make it too soft, then the whole blur kind of loses its effect. So a little bit, I'm at like, it says 5 here. Okay, we'll go with that. So what happens now if I play that? Let's take a look. She kind of is peeking out there a little bit. Not too bad. Actually did okay. Maybe I can get by with moving it over. But let's say we really had to be exact. The mob is after her. We don't want them to know who she is. So I can track this as well. I can either leave it like it is, finish, get out, good, let's play. It's actually not bad at all. It's actually, she peeks out a little bit. So let me try to track that. How do we track that? And again, this is a little bit more advanced. Basically for this class, just the idea of knowing how to blur something is enough. But for those of you who are all that, I want to show you. Click on it, right? So we've delineated it. So we know it's not this one, it's this one. And then we go here to the menu and we see tracking. Oh, okay. And we can actually do 4 trackers, meaning something very complex. We're not that complex. We click on one. Here, the little box next to it, and we'll see this opens up, and we get this 2 concentric box icon. So we're going to move that over. The outer box is kind of like the area that we're going to be dealing with. So I want to make sure that covers her whole head there. The inner box with the X is what you're going to be tracking to. What's the piece of the picture that we're going to be nailing down our blur frame to? So we're going to take it, and you always want it to be, it's easier for the tracker to look at something that has contrast. So her eye there, her very dark eyeshadow, and her skin would be a perfect spot for it to know that, okay, that's what we're going to grab onto as he moves her face. So I'm going to put it right there. the corner of her eye. That's there. And again, just dealing with this simply without going into too much. Then we go over here to Start Tracker, and we let it go. And you'll see how it keeps the crosshairs on the corner of her eye there as she's moving around, even though she lifts it up. And it goes through the whole thing. You just let it go. Put your hands in your pockets. Good. And there's the path that it went on. We close the tracking box. And now if we play it, let's play it. And we can see that it's following her head. And you have no idea who she is. So we added 2 blurs. Let's go back to the edit workspace. Let's take a look. I'm going to play this and we'll take a closer look. And hit play. And that's pretty good. You too can do that. Okay, and if you wanted to go back in and maybe make this softer, you could. You go back in, open the effect mode, click on the part you want, and then adjust what you want to adjust with the feathering or whatever. So that's one way of dealing with blurring either the whole picture or a portion of it. But suppose, let's go back out to edit for a moment, and let's go to this other clip. Suppose we wanted to start a clip nice and focused and have it go into a blur mode. Again, there are different ways to do that. But here's a simple way that I think always works, so we work for me, and that is I'm going to split the clip in 2, and we can do that with our Add Edit icon. And so I'm going to find a spot, let's say right about here, where I'm going to click that. And remember, I have to have the right track selected. There's no audio, so I'm going to deselect those. There's the right track. Click Add Edit, and boom, it clicked it into 2 pieces. There's the little stitch mark. And this second part is where I'm going to add the blur to. So I'll go back into the Effect workspace, find the blur effect, grab it, drag it, drop it, okay? And then again, how do we blur a whole picture? Well, we have to draw something around it, the area, and that's going to be this rectangle. So we're doing this rectangular picture. I'm going to grab it, I'm going to do that. I am going to make the blur a little more as long as we're blurring it. Let's go all the way. Okay, so now what we have, and I'm going to come back out into the edit mode, we have half the thing, crystal clear, and boom, blur. Now, what I wanted to have happen is that it slowly blurs. So it's very simple. If you remember, we did this with the audio from a higher audio transitioning to a lower audio, fading to it. We're going to do the same thing here with the video by using the quick transition mode here. We click that, and so that will put effectively a dissolve in between. Let's do it centered on cut. I'm going to select 60 frames, which because it's a 30 frame base per second, it's be 2 seconds. And this is a render, so it's going to go to the drive, and in render, ba 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 ba. Okay, let's see. I'm going to play it, and slowly blurs out. Okay, so that could be a way to end your story, and they walked into blur oblivion, or maybe with this, kind of the background blurs, and you put a text over it that says, you can donate to SNAR by calling 1-800-SNAR. Okay? And there's the icon for the dissolve, the icon for the blur. So those are basic ways to blur things that hopefully will help you out.